Yeah, welcome today. So today we're going to be talking about supporting our summer vegetables and what we might need to do that. It's windy. I hope the wind doesn't affect too much and you can still hear me. And so the first thing when we're looking at so what vegetables need supporting is probably the first place to start. So things like tomatoes, especially cherry tomatoes, need support. They can grow up to 2 meters tall, so they'll need a little bit of support as they grow. Some of your bush tomatoes, depending on how you want to sort of prune them, you can prune them in ways that may not need structuring if you want to let them grow on the ground. But if you want the tomatoes up off the ground and they don't get as dirty and don't get as eaten and stuff as well, then supporting them as well is quite good, quite handy. Things like beans, snow peas over winter, they're all finishing at the moment. And then your vines. Now, interesting with vines, you've got things like pumpkin, they just grow all over the ground. However, you can put them on a beautiful archway if you'd like as well. Same with cucumbers. Cucumbers actually grow quite well when they're supported and on a structure that's high off the ground. And again, then the fruit doesn't get dirty and on the grass and all of that sort of stuff. Zucchinis don't need any support. They just grow in quite a compact vine, except for the tromboncino zucchini, which is a little bit different. They will grow everywhere and they'll go anywhere and up. Just as I said that earlier, the sun's out now, it's almost about to rain. So we're going to have it all today. And so the basic ones that we're going to be looking at today is tomatoes, your climbing beans, and then some different ideas for cucumbers and zucchinis and things like that. Oh, it's not zucchini, sorry, pumpkins and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and show you some of the ones that I've had over winter, over winter I use a lot of my structures for things like snow peas. Basically mainly snow peas and nasturtiums, because I like nasturtiums. You can eat them, we don't. They're a bit peppery for us, but you can eat the leaves as well of nasturtiums. And then over summer I use those same structures for the tomatoes and the climbing beans and that sort of stuff. So as always, if I do cut out, I will be back. I will be back if it cuts out, so Joanne will give you some of her gardening knowledge while I'm gone. Okay, so the first type of structure that we can have, I'm just going to flip my camera around. The first kind of type of structure is this kind of, there's a hoop, and so it is, this one's a light frame, so you can see it's quite thin. It's just a light frame, and this one only goes to about a meter tall. So you can put, when I put my tomatoes in here, most of them do grow out the top, and that's okay. I just put some of these stakes in here as well, and those stakes also help these circular frames to stand up. Now you can make your own out of like a mesh or anything. Just make sure the mesh size is large enough that you can fit your hand in to harvest your tomatoes, and so that the tomatoes and things don't get squished. So this one had snow peas in it over winter, and that worked really well. The kids love to grab it because it's right here next to our front veranda, and then it will have a tomato there over summer. I love nasturtium wall. Actually is part to hide the windows into our bedroom and that as well. So it's got a couple of different functions, but it's just a mesh. This is a farm mesh. They use it in all sorts of things. The structure does like a hand, but you this wire with your fingers. Now the good thing about this is that the holes are nice and large. This can place all year. See, we had some snow the winter, and they're starting to dry out, and then we'll harvest those to plant next year. So with nasturtiums are interesting. If I can find a good example, here we go. So this here, can you guys see that? Now, what actually happens, this is the main vine of the nasturtium that's coming. I'll get rid of the snow pea from there. This is the main vine of the nasturtium that goes up and out. And this part that's actually wrapped around the is the leaf. And so the leaf stem actually wraps around the wire, and that's what holds them up. And not all of the leaves do that, but when it gets into the right strips around, and see, kind of just hold on. The snow pea, I know it's I know it's dried out now, but the snow pea does a similar thing with these little tendrils, and so they will, if they go near something or they touch something, they'll actually curl around it, whether that's a piece of wire, another plant itself, it doesn't really matter, and that they hold on different ways and pull to hold on to the structure. So you need to either weave them through or give them some support or some ways of doing that. There's another example of how the nasturtium pieces of mesh is another one.
Belinda, you're sort of cutting in and out, and the picture's getting frozen.
Okay, too far, too far that way. So that one at the end is going to be up for cucumbers. So that's another way that another supports structure that I use here. The other ones that we use is just rods. Now this one's a metal rod. You don't need to have the metal. You can get them as wooden rods. They can be the ones covered in plastic like these green ones over here. And these are good to make
No, we've lost you.
There are a lot of commercial products out there that you can use for supporting, but it's up to you what you've got around and what cost you want to put. If you have, now this is, I'm thinking this, from vague memory, this may be an area that drops out again, so just let me know, Joanne. We've got more tomato frames. So these ones, Aldi maybe, in one of their special buy weeks, and they were they're like $10 or $15, or $10 maybe.
Yep, we've lost you.
Okay. I'll have to come and show you some pictures of that later. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're back.
Yes. Okay. Down the other end of the house, we have some of the panels. I'm just going to go inside because the wind is getting a bit loud and everything. But the panel, we have some panels that actually go up to the ceiling of that mesh. I don't know if you saw that. And we put our climbing beans on it. And when we put the climbing beans on it, they actually provide shade for our west-facing windows over summer. So then in the summer, they have a natural barrier, and so we don't get as much sunlight in those windows, which is the study and a bedroom. So it means that not only are we getting beans, and it looks pretty cool, it also provides some relief from the heat over summer as well. So there's lots of things you can do with the support structures for your vegetables that can not only help your vegetables grow, but also then, you know, has some benefits for heating and cooling in your home as well. So what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, when you're planting, so I left my list outside. When you're planting your stuff, just have a think about what structures you are going to use, because you do need some space. And one of the things that I see a lot in, and even in my own garden, is you get a bit, excited that you've got some new seedlings, or you've got some new, especially tomatoes, because tomatoes grow quite large. So they do need a good, half a meter radius, about 1 meter, like 50 centimeters each side at least, to give them the space to grow, to have enough sunlight, and to then also not get mold and mildew. Like if there's not enough airflow, they'll get moldy if we get some of those hot, humid days. So just remember that when you're putting in your structures, that if you've got some big tomatoes or big things, make sure that they have enough space to grow and that you don't plant too many tall things around it. So for example, a tomato I might have 50 centimeters away some lettuces or some low growing things, or a vine like say a pumpkin vine, and then train it to go away from the tomato, so not close to the tomato. And so do those sort of things can really help with disease and mildew and mold and things like that. They can come in sort of usually any time from December onwards. You can get those, those random humid days that we sometimes get. And those days can be they need the airflow, and that's why we need those support structures working there for our plants. What was the other thing I was going to say? So planting, how to tie plants. So the plants that don't actually hold on, things like tomatoes don't hold on to so as you saw with the nasturtium, they actually hold on to whatever the structure is. Same with snow peas, and beans actually wind themselves around the support structure. So beans, you do need to have some vertical or diagonal. They don't like horizontal. Like if you're going to be putting string, don't put horizontal stuff for beans. They won't grow on it. It's got to be diagonal or vertical, because they actually wind around, and they're winding. As they grow, they will want to go up. And so if it's horizontal, they're not going to actually go there. They're going to wrap around at once and then shoot off upwards. So make sure you've got if you're using string, put them on the diagonal or put them vertical. And same with all of your mesh, make sure you've got some vertical stuff there. So beans wind around, snow peas hold on, nasturtiums hold on. Things like cucumbers do to some extent hold on a little bit, but they often need support and help and some ties. So when we're looking at tying our plants onto our mesh or onto our support structures, we don't want to restrict their growth, and we don't want to cut off the branches that we're supporting. So if you have a look at, there's like twisty tie, it looks like a metal piece of wire with plastic around it. Not great for most applications. I pretty much don't use it at all because it can cut into the plant. And if you are going to use it, if you've got some around the house and you really want to use it, make sure it's nice and loose. So if you're, for example, if your tomato is like the size of your finger now, the stem, it's going to grow as the plant grows. So make sure you give it room and allow it to grow, because if you make it as tight as the plant is now, as it grows, it's going to get like a collar, and it's going to get a mark or an indent. And you've probably seen them in trees when they've been, you might see like someone's put a piece of wire around a tree, and you can actually see it grows around it eventually, but it restricts its growth. And when we're looking to grow our vegetables over a single season, we want them to be able to grow as freely as possible. So make sure you use something like, you can use, if you've got old t-shirts, rip them up into strips. And the great thing about most t-shirts is they're most they're cotton based, so they will break down over time, and that's okay. And by the end of the season, they'll still be working, but they might be a little bit more brittle or whatever. But we're not doing this for long term, so it's okay. So ripping up t-shirts or other cotton based materials is really good. You can buy some cotton. You can actually buy cotton plant ties as well. There's some nylon versions as well. I try and use as much cotton as possible just from the waste factor. And so you can get some cotton stretchy tie, and it's not as stretchy as the nylon or the synthetic stuff, but it works really well, and it's actually really soft. So old stockings is another one, if you still wear stockings. Those sort of things, the things that are like soft, they don't have a hard edge that's going to dig into the plant or cut the plant, and make sure they're quite loose when you tie them in. So have them a little bit loose. You will need to have, obviously you don't want them to fall down, you want them to be supported, so only make them as tight as needed. The other thing when you're tying onto, say, a vertical stake, And I wanted to show you this, but I'm not sure I can because my stuff's in the, oh, let's see. I'll go out the back in a minute. But when you're doing your, when you're, say, a tomato onto a vertical stake, so the tomato is vertical and the stake is vertical, instead of just tying it in a single loop, make it into a figure of 8. So put your tie around the tomato, cross them over, and then put them around the vertical stake or the whatever you're tying it to, and then tie your knot there. And the reason for that is 2 reasons. Is you can actually get a better grip on the tomato because it's all the way around, because it's crossed over in between, so it's got a full circle around the tomato plant or the plant that you're using. And also it means that you've got a little bit more give as the plant grows, because you've got that crossover. It's a little bit more, there's a little bit more material there to give and to stretch, and it will just tighten up around the stake as the tomato or the other plant grows. So that's if you're tying to anything vertical or any plants really, I always like to make that crisscross, so a figure of 8. So a circle around the plant, cross them over, and then the circle around the stake. Yeah, and that separates the stake from the plant as well, so you don't get rubbing if it's windy or anything like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn my video off for a minute, and I'm going to walk outside to the back, and I'm going to show you another structure that I've got here that the girls are pretty excited about each year. So 2 years ago, we made this structure, and I'm just going to okay, so this is our structure for, we had snow peas over here in winter, and I've just planted some bean seeds in last week or so. I planted the ones over back a little while ago, and I planted these ones at the front early this on the weekend. So this is a structure of wooden stakes, pots, and then string to go through. Now this is how I worked out. Also, you can see I've got some horizontal string. Nothing grows on them ever. They all go on the horizontal. So this one here, this bean that's already climbing up here, this is a snail cone bean. It's actually a perennial, so it was there from last year. And if we go around this side, so when this is all full, the sandpit is all covered in beans. So there you can see these are Belotti beans that have just started to shoot up there. And over there I can see a couple of blue lake beans and some frost beans coming up. So this is another way that you can actually provide shade or provide, you know, a nature play area, is actually using beans as your walls. Climbing beans work really well because they're nice and fast growing. There's a couple of purple king beans growing up there. We just got to get some, there's a couple I can see that the snails have got to. So this is another way of using nature to provide a spot for you for shade, something a little bit different each season for the girls to play in, and they really love that.
So would you suggest keeping the beans in
over here
pots?
now? This not necessarily. You don't have to. The reason that they're in pots here, oh, I'll just come under the shade. The reason they're in pots there is because there's no soil. There's no ground there. So if you are doing something, so if you want to do something like that for your kids, then yeah, you can just grab some pots, make a teepee, a circle, and make it into a teepee, and then you can plant it anywhere, or put it anywhere. When it's finished, you just pack it all up and use it again for next year. Yeah, so that's supporting. You don't need to put your supports in straight away, like when you plant your plants, but you do need to have them in there by the time they're sort of 30. Oh, well, with beans, it's a little bit sooner because they're going to start climbing. But with tomatoes, you want them in there quite early on so that you're not damaging branches when you're putting your structure in place. So maybe 30 centimetres or so when they're about that big, then you can put the structure over the top.
Do you have a type of string that you prefer to use?
Oh, yes, that's what I was. This is the cotton. When I say string, So this one's actually from the Diggers Garden. Oh, I'm putting it behind my phone and the camera's on the wrong one. So this is actually from the Diggers Club, or the Digger, the Diggers Club Gardens. So it's a cotton twine. And if you have a look, oh, where's the end is usually sticking out somewhere. Maybe this is my new packet. Or it's not going to come out now, is it? I think this is a new one. No, I can't get it out. There it is. So it's kind of like a bit of fabric. It's a little bit stretchy. It's not. It's got enough good stretch on it. And that's what I use because it's nice and soft on the plants. It's 100% cotton, so it can go in the compost once you're finished with it. And yeah, it's nice and easy to use. And again, if you've got old t-shirts, that's what you can make it. Just cut them into strips that big, that wide, and then you can use that as well. That's my favourite.
Yeah, Spotlight have rolls of it.
There you go.
Yeah, so I don't know how many metres, but I ended up using that for the ear bits on the masks.
Yes.
It's soft.
Yes.
It's comfortable on the ears, and I did it so that I could tie them to whatever size I needed. So, but yes, and you could have colours if you want.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, of course. Colours make everything prettier.
Yeah.
Just while I'm out here, so my daughter has been potting up some cactuses or cacti to sell. And so she's got these cacti and she's going to, I've got to put a link up. She's going to sell these guys for a charity called Shield of the Children. She loves potting up plants, and so she's going to do those, and they'll be up for sale, and half the cost will go to a charity called Shield of the Children. So just while I was out here, I saw those, a little plug there. So is there any questions on the chat at the moment?
No, it doesn't seem to be. We've still got tomatoes and chilies.
Yes,
the slugs and snails haven't got.
Yes, we had a few issues with the eggplants, but they don't seem to like chilies, so that's all good. There's something great to grow in the garden.
I might need to do a barrier of chilies, a ring of chilies, and put all the eggplants in the centre, so they've got to get through that.
So we've got quite a few tomatoes. There's also different varieties of tomato there. They've got cherry tomatoes, pea tomatoes, which literally the finished product is the size of a pea, and they're really cool for the kids. That my girls, I always plant 2 or 3 of them, so the girls have their lolly bushes, and they go out into the garden and they go nuts with them. They're really nice, straight from the bush. And then lots of different cherry tomatoes, and quite a few varieties of like larger tomatoes, like the normal size tomatoes, some heirloom varieties, as well as a couple of like higher producing hybrids as well.
Are you able to give a description of what the KY1, what's it like?
Yeah, so KY1 is basically like, I'm just going to go inside, the windows keeps popping up and it's going to not sound great. KY1 is a hybrid tomato that has been developed to be quite a higher producing, one of the higher producing ones. It's just basically a normal tomato. It's it's not a cherry tomato. It's a decent sized tomato. We've grown it a couple of years, and it seems to be a nice yielding one. I've made a few salsas with it. That's what we actually make a lot of our large tomatoes, and same with the beefsteak tomato. The beefsteak is a large tomato, and it's got like lots of lines through it, so it's not like quarters like some of the other tomatoes. It's got lots of flesh in the middle, both of those we often make into salsas and sauces and things like that.
The P. Borges?
Yeah, Borges. So The pea is, it was such a long name. I didn't write it in. It's an heirloom tomato that I just picked up last season. So I haven't actually grown that one yet. Again, a large tomato, quite a sweet tomato, from memory from the description. Again, salads, all of that sort of stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Just to sort of have a bit of an idea, the Grosselissae have all gone.
Yep.
I think there might be one good Roma. I know the snails got to a couple of the good Romas, so there might be one if we can look through and they revitalise.
Yeah. So the good Roma, it's a Roma tomato. We don't know where it came from. My sister grew it one year, and it just kept producing kept going. You'd pick like some, and 2 days later there'd be another 5, and 2 days later, and it just kept going. And she's like, even through, I think it was like the April school holidays, she's like, this thing is just keeping on going. And in the end, she just, I think it was like in May or something, she picked the whole bush, what was left on it, and there was still like a kilo of tomatoes on it. So it was a really good long producer, and sort of like 1 inch sort of size Roma, so not huge Romas, but about the 1 inch longer, skinnier Roma tomatoes, which was so they were good fun to grow.
Okay. And then we've got all the chilies and
yes. And a lot of those chilies, by the way, so when the food swap starts up again, a lot of those chilies were from dried chilies that I got over the course of the last year or two, from different people through that the food swap at Iramu. So the Bishop Caps, there's a small red hot chili and a small bell shaped chili. I don't know the official name of it. Mostly red chilies, and the mini chocolate capsicums came from some locals as well. So there's been some good seed swapping and that coming from the food swaps there. So hopefully they'll be up and running again soon.
Yes, I think they're hoping for November, just waiting to see what the numbers are. But I saw talk in their Facebook page that they are hoping to be able to catch up this month. So
excellent.
So.
And I hear also, Joanne, that we're going to be able to come back soon.
Yes, we've got groups starting to come back next week. It's just a matter of working out the logistics of where, outside, inside, how many parts we've got. It's all good if it's sunny, but if it's going to be wet and rainy, it's going to be a nightmare. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue on doing the Zooms with the garden, just because we're finding that we're able to reach people that might not be able to get down to the garden session. But hopefully, we might be able to have some people interacting with the Zoom session. So you might have a photographer for you, a videographer, following you around. Yes. So, and I think this week, Amy and Renee are back in the office on a Thursday. So we're gradually increasing the number of days that the centre has got staff in it. We might not be open next week. Next week we will be, because we've got the some of the groups coming back that have got the small numbers. So things are
awesome to see that things are starting to come back, and that we've had, and you guys have been really good support over the lockdown period, just having these Zooms and other Zooms, and I know the girls have enjoyed watching some of the YouTubes as well. So
no, look, it's made us think outside the square, which is good, and think of different ways to be able to link with our community. And look, we totally understand that not everyone's going to want to get back out straight away. They might take their time. So that's why we thought if we can still keep the odd Zooms, we've now got our YouTube page, which I looked at the other day. It's got over 70 videos on different topics, from cooking, the gardening ones, some making beeswax wraps, cupcake decorating that we had way back in Neighbourhood House Week. That was back in May. Which is really good. So
awesome.
So did anyone have any questions about today about supporting your plants through summer. I think you must have covered everything. Well, just stop. Oh, hang on. 3 baby corn plants. Oh, yes. To put those in at the garden. Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thanks, Marie.